Thank you, Artem, for your help. So today, again, I'm going to introduce you a topic I'm currently working on. And before I would like to tell you a little bit about Fotogi Chuleskerov. He's not only my scientific supervisor, but he's like the person who invented all these indices. And yeah, I'm sure that the use of these indices will find its application not only among conflicts and this really specific topic, but also in other spheres. The use of these indices actually has already been applied to bibliometric analysis, trade networks, and the study of Parkinson's disease. So it's a really like interesting thing to analyze and to apply. I was really surprised by the opportunities that this index opens to the researchers. So yeah, today we are going to talk about international conflicts, and it's a really huge topic. And I'm not a political scientist, and this topic is only interesting for me because of the interesting like application of these indices. But this data is really interesting, not only for the like researchers, like political scientists, but also for like the general public here. So the study of conflict is actually a permanent topic of international research, and we here study international conflicts based on the construction of a network among countries involved, and also we take into account the intensity of an international conflict, and we also take into account intensity of internal conflicts in a country. So we have here a weighted network when like the weight of the network of these edges is like the intensity of the conflict, the more depth of a conflict, the war in a particular countries, the more intense this conflict will be called. Also, again, we take into account the intensity of internal conflicts because sometimes some countries are not really stable and they are like terrorist attacks. I know, really big number and big variety of internal problems. So we take this thing into account and we model such a picture when we can consider both international and internal conflicts. And I will introduce this model after after the introduction of centrality indices. So in the construction of this network, we consider also the influence of third countries on the conflict. So we here build actually a really complicated model considering many things, and I will show you this model after introduction of these new indices. But before this introduction, I just want also to describe the database, because there are lots of source of this data about conflicts, and you know that there is a really distinctive branch of analysis of the whole political science that analyzes and considers the conflicts between countries. So it's a really broad and really interesting discipline. But here we are going to use the UCDP armed conflict dataset, and here you see that this time period is available after the World War II, but we will consider only the time period before 1946 and 2018. Because this is something we are currently working on, and we cannot just analyze. It's not well. It doesn't make sense to analyze the whole period, building the whole model, because sometimes, like countries may be really may have a conflict, but in a couple of years or decades, they may be so-called so-called fronts. So we here divide this big time period to the smaller ones. And according to this organization, the like a conflict is a contested incompatibility that concerns government or territory where the use of armed force between two parties, of which at least one is the government of a state, results in at least 25 battle-related deaths. So to name a certain thing, a conflict, we need that we need these 25 battle-related deaths, and also we need that one side should be a government, and we don't really care if the second side is a government or not, but we should have at least one as a government. And here, like you can click to this link to see this data set and read about it in detail. But here in our model, we will consider only two types of conflicts. Namely, we will consider interstate armed conflicts. Interstate armed conflicts occurs between two or more states. So here we have side A, a government, so of a particular country, both on side A and side B. But also we considered internationalized internal armed conflicts. So this is something that occurs between the governments of the states and one or more internal opposition groups with the intervention of other states on one or both sides. So let me explain this situation a little bit. So this conflict may occur when, for example, on side A, we have a government, but on side B, we have non-governmental organization or terrorist group. But if a real country, so if a country supports this terrorist group, then this will be, for example, an internationalized internal armed conflict. So I will show you this type of conflicts in a couple of minutes. So also we use the second data set that is called UCDP battle-related deaths data set. So we need this data to assign weights to our graph and construct this network and calculate all the indices. So again, we use the first data set to construct a network, but the second data set, we use this data set to assign weights and prepare our network for the further analysis. So this is like the general picture. Also, I forgot to say that the data of 2022 is available, and we can use this data actually, but there are lots of conflicts that are current, and it's really hard to analyze these conflicts. And the data that we have here about deaths maybe not really like good, and we decided to put this boundary here, 2021. So this is like the general picture of the whole conflicts that we have here. So we can see that we have here interstates, intrastates, and internationalized interstate violence. And you see that here you may find some information about the colors. And our goal is to divide this whole time period to special periods, like smaller than 1 year or so. We should create these small time periods to describe how this network is evolving over time, and to assess the international conflicts using taking into account internal conflicts. We should introduce this new centrality indices that were developed by Foto Givichellis-Kerov. These bundle and pivotal indices, sorry. So the bundle index actually calculates the number of critical sets. This is like I will show you the details of this example, but using our data set, we can say that this index calculates the number of critical sets for each state, and then we should normalize it across the states at the selected period. So here we will talk about the really new things, and we will introduce, for example, the pivotal nodes, the quarter queue, and number of vertices. So these indices evaluate the level of centrality of particular nodes as if it influences the group of nodes having incoming arcs from them. So we consider here the weights of incoming arcs to a particular node. And also we consider the parameter of particular nodes and see whether the node we are considering is more influential than the nodes that are going to this node that we are considering. So we will see that the bundle index, for example, we calculate this bundle index to a particular node. So the value of this bundle index is equal to the number of the subsets of incoming edges from not more than k vertices, right here you see, with the sum of weights not less than the quarter q. So what we're doing here, so if we want to calculate the bundle index for the nodes I, for example, right here, we should create a subset of nodes. So S is a subset of nodes excluding this node I, such that the cardinality of this subset is no less than k. So we set k, for example, equal to, I don't know, 3, and we should create this subsets, many subsets. You see that we sum here this bundle index for the subsets, and we should see whether the cardinality, so here we should see that the cardinality of the subset should be less than k, and the weight should not be equal to 0, and all the incoming ties should belong to S. And we calculate this bundle influence index as the sum of these incoming ties to nodes that we are calculating this index to, and this sum of the weights should be more than quarter that we assign. So quarter is a parameter of this node. And if the sum of weights of this incoming nodes to the edges that are going to this nodes I is greater than quarter q, we will have 1 here. And if we sum all this value from all the subsets and normalize this value, we will have this bundle index. And if you have any questions, you can ask me about the work of these indices, but we will consider the example in a couple of minutes. Also, what is really important here, we should introduce the pivotal index, and I would like to start with the fact that this pivotal index differs from the bundle index in the following way. So instead of the number of sets of edges, like here you see that we are comparing the weights from subsets of edges, the number of pivotal nodes is calculated. So here we take the subset excluding vertex that we are calculating our centrality index. And also we have this condition that the cardinality of subset sets should be less than k. But we should introduce here a really new thing that here we have this pivotal index that is described right here. So the nodes JP from set S is defined as the pivotal one for the node I in the critical set with the quarter Q. If it holds this condition that if we calculate the weights of the subsets that have this incoming ties to vertex that we are calculating this pivotal index, if this condition holds, but if we exclude this pivotal index, the situation changes here. Sorry. So you see that here we have this. You should imagine like a picture. Let me show you like the example right here. So here, for example, we can calculate the index, the bundle index for the nodes V5, and you see that we should see that we have here two subsets. So subsets of edges. So the first one is from V1 to V5. The second one is from V4 to V5. And we have here parameters of this node. So we have a parameter for V5, and this is equal to 1. So as you see that here you can find the parameter of bundle index, not normalized. So here we have two critical sets that can influence a particular node 5. Also, this pivotal index may be normalized, and we can calculate this pivotal index for a weighted graph. And what is CI here? CI is a Copeland index. So it's actually the weights, the sum of incoming weights of a particular node. For example, let me show you like the example. If we have we consider vertex V4 right here, you can see that number of sum of weights of incoming ties to V4 is equal to 0 because V4 doesn't have incoming ties. This node only has outgoing ties. And we have 6 right here. You see that sum of weights to V2 equals to 6, 1, 2, 5. Well, here we have like 1, 3, and 2. So the sum of 1, 3, and 2 equals to 6. That's why we have 6 right here. Okay, so let's turn back to the conflicts, and you see that let's consider these bundle and pivotal indices for the vertex. So the bundle index calculates the number of critical sets for each state and then normalizes across all states in the selected period. So we have a period and we calculate this bundle and pivotal index for each period that we create, that we will create that we created. And I will introduce to you these periods in a couple of minutes. So some states can leave the critical sets and then the set ceases to be critical, and this state's called pivotal one. So if one state, for example, leave a particular set and this situation will be different, we will say that these states will be pivotal. So the proposed pivotal index evaluates the number of pivotal states over the critical sets and then normalize the values among all states. And like in general, we are going to see that using the proposed this new centrality indices, we can assess the involvement of states in interstate conflicts, taking into account internal conflicts in these periods that I will introduce you. So the proposed centrality indices will help us to assess the involvement of states in these interstate conflicts. And yeah, to compare this, to be able to compare these results obtained using these two new indices, pivotal and bundle, we will also calculate Copeland index, like this is the sum of weights of incoming ties. And this is like the really classical centrality index, and we are going to calculate this one to be able to compare the results. Okay. So here you see that we have the ordinal scale of external conflicts, and you see that here we have also the scale or the ordinal scale for internal conflicts, and also I'm introducing you here the periods that we have. So these periods of relatively stable relationship and between countries, so we cannot, for example, create a period when one country has a war with another country, and at the same time they have like friendship, like so-called friendship relationship between them. So if we have this situation, we should create separate periods, because this situation is not really stable and it doesn't make sense to analyze the whole period if we have such a switch of relationship. But it's a really common thing in the whole conflict topic. So let me again tell you that here, for example, we have this ordinal scale from 1 to 13, and we should introduce here that in each conflict, in each period, we have several like frequency of this conflict. And you see that in the period 1, for example, we have 4 conflicts with intensity 13. It's the maximum intensity with more than 50,000 victims. So it's really a lot. And also we have, for example, 10 conflicts with really like low intensity. So also we have the sum of all conflicts and all frequencies here in this row. It's called total in period. What is interesting here is that okay, so let's consider this example, these periods more precisely, let's say. And before we will do this, let me show you the construction, the methodology for the whole network construction. So consider the network. The nodes of this network are generally recognized countries. This is really important that we cannot, for example, consider a terrorist organization or something. So these countries are generally recognized countries. And the edges of this network are the conflicts between the countries. So as I said, this network is weighted. That's why we have the intensity of a particular conflict assigning to the weight to the links between these countries, and our network is also directed. And I will show you how these weights were transformed later. So we here introduced three types of conflicts. The first type is direct conflicts, when we have two countries on both sides. Also, we have indirect conflict, a conflict between a conflicting country and a supporting country of an enemy country. And also, we have distant indirect conflict, a conflict between supporting countries of different sides of the conflict. And also, as I said, the intensity is assigned to the edges of the network depending on the number of victims of the conflict itself. And the number of the victims of the internal conflicts in these countries, if any, and the type of the conflicts. You see that this is like the scale for the intensity of internal conflicts. If you see that the range is smaller in comparison, like with this one, with external conflicts. So if, for example, a particular country has problems inside this country, and we have victims based on battle-related deaths inside this country, we will use this scale to measure the intensity of this conflict. So let me show you the example. As I said, we have three types of conflicts. The first one, when we have two states as sides of this conflict. Then we have indirect conflicts and distant indirect conflicts. So this is like the table we are going to use constructing the model. You see that if, for example, we have a direct conflict, we will not use any correction here. But if we have indirect conflicts between these countries, we will subtract 2 minus 2 intensity level. And if we have distant indirect conflicts, we will say that this is minus 4 intensity level. So again, the arcs of this graph here represent the network, the tower network is directed, and the weights of the incoming arc is the sum of the adjusted intensity of the internal conflict plus the intensity of the internal conflict in the country. So we will use some correction to our network to assign needed weights and direction of our arc. So let me show you this example. For example, let's here we have, you see that here we have a situation when we have a direct conflict between state A and state B. And the country C supports the country A and the country D supports the country B. So you see that between state A and state D, there is a conflict, but it's not direct conflict because we have a direct conflict between state A and state B. But this conflict is called indirect conflict. And as country C supports country A and side D supports country D, we can see that this conflict is called distant indirect conflict. Okay, because these countries are supporters to these conflicts that are having this war. So I hope that this fact is clear for you. Also, we can assume here that the intensity of the conflict between A and B is 5, meaning that, well, you see that this conflict is external. That's why we have 5 here. So we have more than 1,000 deaths. Okay, so this level of intensity is 5. Also, we have here internal conflicts in the country B with the intensity of 1. So our internal conflict, like is here. That's why we have less than 100 deaths in this country. And we have internal conflict with the country C with the intensity of 3, meaning that we have from 500 to 1,000 deaths on this territory C. And using all this information and different types of conflict, we can construct a directed graph with the following weights of the arcs. So you see that we don't have a correction here because this is a direct conflict. That's why you see that if we have well, the intensity of the conflict between A, B, and is equal to 5. But you see that here we should see whether we have internal conflicts in state A or in state B. And you see that as we have the internal conflicts in state B, the influence of state A to state B will be higher because you see that in state B we have an internal conflict. That's why we have not 5 but 6 here. You see that this influence will be higher. But as we do not have any problems in country A, this influence will be 5 because you see that if we have a problem, internal conflicts, for example, in country A, this influence will be higher. But we do not have these conditions here. That's why we have 5 here. So again, this is like our weight. Okay, also we have a link, a nudge between A and D. You see that here we have indirect conflict. And you remember from this table that we should make this correction. And you see that we do not have the internal conflict inside country D. That's why we should put -2 to the intensity of this this general conflicts, and we should put here 3 because we made this correction right here. Also, we have to make this correction from D to A, and as we do not have internal conflicts inside this country, we will not make this type of correction based on internal conflicts. So using this logic, we can construct this network and we can assign weights to our edges. Okay, let's go to the most interesting part, let's say, and let me show you the results using all these indices. So in the first period, so here we extract the first period from 1946 to 1953, and you see that during this period, and let me show you, say you here that we sort all of these values based on Copeland's integrity index. So in this first period, after the end of the Second World War, the beginning, here we have the beginning of the Cold War. And here we have major conflicts, the main parts of Indochina War, Indo-Pakistan War, and several other conflicts. So based on this table, we can say that the states most involved in conflicts in this period are China, North Korea, Israel, the USSR, and South Korea. So these countries, let's say that these countries are most involved in the conflict. So at the same time, if we look at the indices that take into account group interactions, namely bundle index and pivotal index, most involved countries are, you see that USSR right here, and right here, and China. you see that the value of bundle index is really high in comparison with other values right here. So again, bundle index takes into account the critical groups in the network most involved in the conflict. And you see that what is surprising here, that these values are approximately equal to each other. And you see that while Israel is really like it's a top 3 country that is involved, that was involved in conflicts in this period, but the value of bundle index is not really high here in comparison with, for example, China or USSR. Well, if we look well, let me consider also the pivotal index right here. So if we look at the values of the pivotal centrality index, and you remember that this index take into account the states at the exit of which from the critical group it ceases to be critical. So we will see again then that the USSR is the most involved in conflicts right here. And this country, you see that this value is like really big. And the second, so it is followed by China by a very large margin. So the so this is like really high, large margin between this value and this value right here. So using this information, we can say that in the period from 1946 to 1953, USSR was the most involved in conflicts country. But you see that if this state is at the well, will exit the critical group, this group will cease to be critical. So it's a really important conclusion right here. We can make like the interpretation of this fact, but it's not like the goal of today's topic. So let's go to the second period. So this is like the period of crash of colonial system and trace of arms. And here you see that we can find the major conflicts that are the most intense and the most important. And using this information, we can say, for example, that the most important and the most involved country in conflicts, this is China, France, Egypt, and using again the same logic of bundle index and pivotal index, we can say that, for example, Egypt and China, these countries are the most important with the use of critical sats. And we can say here that also these countries are most involved in international conflicts in this period here. Okay, so the third period is the period of active phase of Cold War. Here we have also the list of main conflicts. And you see that the most important country based on the sum of weights of incoming ties was Vietnam. But this country is not that important if we consider group influence. You see that China is really important based on bundle index, and also two important countries based on pivotal index, China and Vietnam also. Okay, so let's go to the fourth period. So this is the period from 1980 to 1987. And this is the period before the collapse of the USSR. Here we also have the list of the major conflicts right here. And you see that again, what is interesting that we have Lebanon on top one here. That was quite surprising for me when I saw the results. Also, we have here South Africa, and these countries are the most involved, let's say. So, yeah. The the fifth period is from 1988 to 2000. It's the period of the collapse of the USSR. That's why you will not see this country right here. And we have major conflicts here. We have in South Ossetia. It was really big war. And also we have another like huge list of conflicts. You see that the really big value here we have in Iraq, and based on like the total, like if we construct a network without creating this periods, Iraq will be the most important and the most involved in all conflicts country. So this country will be with the highest total degree centrality, because we have this information. And again, this is like not the first attempt of presenting these results. Fotagic with the co-authors he has the paper that was actually in Russian, and you can I can send you the name of this paper if you ask me. So here, what is interesting again, that Iraq has like really high bundle index right here. Also, we can say that Iraq is the most important country based on the perspective from the perspective of pivotal index, and yeah, this was really quite surprising for me. Also, we have this really let's say interesting and important conflict with Yugoslavia, and you see that here we have top two for the Serbia right here. Okay, so also we have a conflict from 2001 to 2010. Here we have also several major conflicts. You can read them. And based on the indices that we calculated, the most important state was Afghanistan. You see that this value is really huge, and we have almost perfect one right here. That's why you see that it's a really really big margin between, for example, Afghanistan and Iraq back in this period. So I let's say that this was the largest and most severe conflict during this period, and the whole period may be described by this really big conflicts in Afghanistan. Also, you see that here we have Russia, USA, Rwanda, also really interesting thing that can be found here. But you see that bundle index for Afghanistan is really huge. Also, it's really huge for pivotal index right here. And the last periods right here is the period from 2011 to 2018. Here we have also um, Ukraine conflicts also. You see that this is like the present conflict. That's why we should do something like using the periods from 2000 to 2021. Also, we have here Yemeni civil war, and you see that again, Iraq has the highest bundle index and pivotal index. And we do not have here, for example, Ukraine or or Russia, because it is like this period from 2011 to 2018. Okay, so these are the results. Well, what we are doing right now, we would like to add several years, because you see that right now we have new data, and we have a data to 2022. So we should do something to see whether this period from 2011 to 2021 is relatively stable or not. And we should do something if this period is not really stable. We should divide this big period of a decade to a smaller periods and calculate these indices for these new periods. Well, yeah. So what can I tell you right here? So I guess that this topic is really huge and really big, and this is something that we can use to create a really big and complex model using parameters, both parameters for nodes. We can use here weights, and we can do many things to create this complex picture as international conflicts. Really, it's a really big and complex thing that can be analyzed. And yeah, so if you have any questions regarding this work, you can ask me about them, and I am free to your comments. Thank you for your attention. And I'm ready to the questions that you may have.
Thank you, Anna. I see the hand of Artem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good day, Anna. Good day, dear colleagues. First of all, let me thank Anna for this terrific, really great presentation. That's really a very interesting research. So my name is Artem Maltsov, and I represent Faculty of Social Sciences here at HSC University and also MGIMO. So I have a couple of technical and conceptual questions. And first of all, let me start with asking you about the quota parameter that was discussed during the first part of the presentation. So you mentioned that this quota parameter was used for both bundle index and pivotal index. So please, can you maybe clarify how would you select and define this parameter in your work? And what kind of specific parameter number you are using for this Q parameter?
Anna, you have your mic turned off.
I hope that you can hear me well right now.
Yeah, now we can. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So thank you, Artem, for this for your comment. And here, as far as I remember, let me check this information, because it's really well. You see that this indices are really sensitive to these issues. So, for example, if we change quota to, for example, 50%, so like from 10%, the whole results will be different. So let me tell you, like, I have this information actually. So this is like natural construction. So you can find this information. Well, I don't think that you can find this information. Okay, so let me just find this information right now. And also, if you have other questions, you can ask me about them, and I will tell you this in a couple seconds.
Yeah, sure. I have a follow-up question, and since the first question was kind of technical, the second one is conceptual. So if I recall what Tagievich works on this family of indices, the main intuitive idea behind it is that basically these indices were developed from the studies of legislatives, where you have various coalitions of deputies voting for different, basically law, for different laws, and various combinations of those coalitions might pass laws or fail to pass laws. And therefore, presence and positions of different deputies in different coalitions is very important. And therefore, for instance, the logic behind of pivotal index, where one deputy might be crucial for different coalitions to achieve some sort of success. And if we can apply this logic to the network of conflicts, it's very interesting what kind of success are we trying to model in a conflict network. And hereby, the parameter of quota is crucially important because, depending on the value of quota, we kind of understand the success of conflict in a different manner. And here, to actually understand the meaning of the centrality assessments for different countries, we need to understand what kind of success of conflict are we talking about. Do we follow, do we try to understand success from the standpoint of a specific intensity of a conflict, or maybe an outcome of a conflict, or something else?
Well, it's really great question, actually. Maybe you may like we can talk in Russian like after the seminar, because you have really rich thoughts, and this is something we are also like talking about. And you see that the whole way of conflicting in the 21st century is totally different. So we should do something to consider all these changes, because sorry guys, can you hear me?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, because the picture is freezing or something. So like wars in the beginning, like after the Second World War, it's like the way of fighting, the way of conflicts, the whole conflicts procedure is totally different. And if, for example, in the beginning of like in the periods of like in the second period that we considered, there were lots of examples when we have direct conflict between countries. Right now, we do not have really such big number of direct conflicts between states. So the whole picture is changing, and we should consider all these values in our model. Also, actually, I really love your comments about the quota, because this is something, well, when I played, like, let's say played with these indices, and I change the quota like a little bit, the whole situation turns out to be really different. So I guess that it's a great idea to, if we have this conversation in Russian, like after the seminar, because I really like the way you understand this topic and the depth of your understanding and your questions, and it seems that you understand the work of these indices and the whole topic. So I guess that we can talk about this after the seminar, the official part.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Anna. We have another question, another hand.
Yes.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much, Anna, for this presentation. It was really nice. And I really wonder, how do you handle the borders change in this kind of research? Because I have a general question. Do you use modern borders or that time borders? So, for example, my question is about, in the first period, China in your presentation takes the first place, but it was during Chinese Civil War. And do you consider all Chinese warlords, or and just, I don't know, summarize the value, or just consider People's Republic of China. And also, I ask this question primarily because, in the third period, for example, there are already two countries, South Vietnam and Northern Vietnam. And another question, another side of this question is that during the third period of time, as far as I remember, there were two countries, Egypt and Syria. Am I understand correctly? Am I remember correctly? In the third period of time, Egypt and Syria.
Egypt and Syria, let me show you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Fine. Yeah, because the main problem can be here is that it was the one country that times, Egypt and Syria, and they participated in war. It was like United Arab country or something. It's called like this, and they participated in war against Israel. That's why, yeah, another war, not 6-day war, but another Yom Kippur war. It's called Yom Kippur War. Yeah, that's why I asked about borders, how you handle it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your questions. They're all great. This is something that I didn't do myself. This is something that I have. You see that I'm not a really big specialist in political science, and I'm not a really huge specialist in this conflicts topic. But you see that about this period, what I knew exactly is that, well, it's not really a technical problem, actually. It's not like a technical thing to create these periods. We should have here a general understanding what is going on. That's why, like, it was a talk with the political scientists, and this was a really huge huge topic with it's the huge debating topic, because you see that here we have the general, like the general definition of the whole period. This is like an active phase of Cold War, and you see that these borders can be like, it's not really like strict thing when you have, for example, like the periods before the collapse of the USSR. But this is like the general idea that lies behind the whole period. But what was like also really important here is that, as I said, it should be a period of relatively stable relationship between countries. So if, for example, we have like, let's consider like the last period right here. So if we have a conflict between Russia and Ukraine, we cannot consider the periods when Ukraine supported Russia in a particular war. So it should be relatively stable, but also it's like a particular period cannot be like 1 year or so. So it should be like be a big like time period here. So it should be almost like a decade, and in this decade we have like major conflicts and general idea and general like definition of this period. But we like well, it can be done actually mathematically, like the most stable position and the most stable period. But this is something that was carefully discussed with the political scientists who had this idea and the whole like understanding of conflicts between states.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I see.
Okay, I hope that I give you the answer to your question. Have you got any other questions? Please be free to ask me about them.
Yeah, colleagues, do you have any questions?
Well,
Okay,
if we have some time, I have a very brief question, maybe once again, turning back to the general idea of research. So how would you conceptualize the notion of group influence in such a network? What kind of influence we're talking about, and how you yourself understand this basic idea behind using various influence indices compared to more traditional metrics of centralities like in degree, etc.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here what is really important is that we here take into account group interactions, and we use here bundle index to see whether this group interaction may be successful over a particular country. But what was really like, well, maybe the most interesting part right here is the pivotal index. And you see that pivotal index, it uses the information that if, for example, a particular country exits of this critical group, for example, any of them, the situation, well, will be totally different. So this group ceases to be critical. That's why it's really important to see here pivotal nodes. So these countries may be considered as the most influential. And the second thing that is general is that I think that it is like the totally new different approach of understanding the centrality measure, because you see that most centrality measures, they take into account, okay, the number of links, the sum of weights, but right here we can use node parameters, and this like is a really new thing. So these results and the whole approach is so like new and so unique, because you see that's my academic supervisor, he is the first scientist who developed this new paradigm of analysis. And you see that using, well, Copeland integrity index is like general index, like this is sum of weights of incoming edges. And you see that using this perspective, well, it's not really a great example right here. So, but we have like situations when the general index is giving us the one picture, but using these new indices, the situation differs totally. And this is like the big thing that I want to tell you today. And I'm sure that the use of these indices will find its application not only like here, but in other spheres. You see that there were many, like not many, but we have one research article about the use of bibliometric analysis. And we can do something with these indices because we have lots of network data and we have lots of applied problems. That's why my goal here is to make these indices popular and really like common inside our lab. So yeah, this is my goal right now. So if you do have like questions, or if you would like to like calculate these indices, I can send you the link to the program that can, for example, like it was really surprising for me that I cannot like I can calculate these indices only by hand because I do not have open code for these indices. That's why I will ask, for example, firstly for Tegevich, if it's okay to share this program with you. But you can trust me. It's really like really easy to calculate all these things, because
As far as I remember, there is a
only
Python
need,
package for this indices, and it's open source.
Well, you see, well, these indices are really new. You see that previously Ulrich and well, LIR
Long-range interaction index and short-range interaction index, right?
RIC indices introduced, but these are totally different. They are, well, let's say, easier to understand and easier to use and easier to make these calculations. That's why you cannot find the app for these indices right now. But if you have like this intention to calculate something, please be free to text me. Because these indices actually were invented, I don't know, several years ago, let's say. So in 2020, we have like this publication in the preprint series. And I recommend you, if you would like to understand all of these indices in detail, I recommend you to read this paper. Here you just need to read 20 pages of notations, like of formulas, but here you may find great examples, and you can calculate everything by hand to understand the main principles. Because you see that these indices are not really difficult to understand. If you do not have a degree in mathematics, it will not be a problem for you to understand what is critical set or pivotal nodes. So it will not be a problem.
Yeah, I just maybe add some final remarks, and then we'll shut up, and maybe we can discuss it somewhere later. I had experience working with short and long-range interaction indices developed by Fatagij before, and I think my main, I'm not sure that the word problem would be correct here, but my main difficulty with this with these indices was the problem of basically identifying and conceptualizing the quota. Because basically quota in most networks conceptually means sensitivity and vulnerability to external influence. And you need to have very, very good theoretical model and theoretical explanation that can justify the specific level of quota. And it's very hard to actually select such a quota in many networks. And I was very curious how you were actually trying to resolve this problem, and what kind of conceptual ideas you have surrounding this problem. But maybe this is a conversation for another time and for another language, so to speak.
Well, I have a really short answer for you, but we can discuss this in details. I'm really free to all these conversations. That first thing that you should do is to create the distribution of the weights, and maybe if you would like to, well, let's say it's simpler. You may have, for example, 1% of all values that you have on your parameters. Or if you would like to see whether, like, well, after calculating the indices, you should assess something. Well, you should understand the theory. But the first thing that you should do is to create the distribution of the node parameters, and after that, you should have, for example, quota for each node as 1% of for example, node parameter, 10% of node parameter. So it's like a percentage of a particular weight of parameter of particular node. So please experiment with the percentage of these things. But we can I can show you like the example if you are really interested in this topic. Because quota thing, it's really like you should be really sure about the quota, because if we change this quota a little bit, you may have a really different picture, and this is like the central, let's say, element of the whole procedure of calculating these indices.
Thank you very much, Anna and Artyom, for asking these questions, and also Ilya. So Anna, I also have one question, probably just a short one. If you go back to the slide with the model of your for the network construction, a little bit before and before. Yeah, I think it was one of the question is about periods. So how did you differentiate between the periods? How did you split all the distribution of the years into exactly these periods? Because I think I'm afraid that
Yeah.
It can also influence the results. So I'm just asking because
Yes, of course.
in one of
it was
our
really well, it was not done.
yeah, please.
So we have this lag and okay, so this was not something that was made by me. That's why I will not tell you like a really great explanation about this, because this was something that was predefined as a task, and these periods were created by huge like debates between between mathematicians and between political scientists. That's why they have like here such a balance between mathematical model and mathematical like stability of this network, and both these periods should here have clear like definition. So we have well, if we see like 100-year history of conflicts, we have like big big periods, and here our intention was to separate these periods and say that okay, in this decade we have such a situation when we have like such a position of those countries that are supporting each other and having a war between each other. And using this logic, we can separate these periods, but of course, it's not like the most objective thing. And one can say that, okay, I think that this period should be extended and we can add several years, but this person should calculate everything and do their own research. So as this topic is really huge, and the whole idea, like the whole logic behind it is really like big. And again, like if you would like, for example, to calculate death of a particular conflict, it may be a PhD topic, but here we should do some corrections and say that okay, so we decided that this is a period of relatively stable relationship, and we should do some corrections here just to have this big results. We should have like such moments to be discussed. But these were our like not our, but like for the Givich with the political scientists, they decided that these periods are relatively stable. And this is like more conceptual, let's say, thing, and it's not really strict, and one would tell something about this, and this person may be really right, and the objections should be clear. Now results are not robust to the change in periods. Well, I didn't quite get what does mean to be robust here. So
probably
okay, I got you.
Ilya means
so
that
if you
Yeah, so basically if you change like periods and you add or delete several years, like not important ones. So for example, period 5, you add 2001 or 2002, there were not so many conflict in these years. Would be results like similar, or they will change really big?
Yeah, no, we are talking here about network analysis, and network analysis is not really robust to these changes, because you see that, well, if you, for example, exclude a small conflict, and well, you will exclude only one diet from the whole network, this will not be a problem. But if you exclude several conflicts and several countries, the whole situation will be totally different, because well, this is like the topic of my actually PhD, the stability of centrality measures in network structures. That's why I will tell you in 3 years if this thing is stable or not, because you see that these new indices, well, they were invented several years ago. That's why the level of stability is not quite certain right now. But here, what is clear for me is that if you exclude and change the time period, the results will be totally different.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. I'm gonna wait then.
Okay. And I have another question, if I may. So can you please also move to the further slide? I think probably next one or the next after next. So I have a question about I mean forward. I have a question about this normalization, not normalization, sorry, about again the model of this weights for indirect conflicts and distant indirect conflicts when you extract 2 and extract 4. So yeah, it was this slide, number 10.
Yes.
So why exactly you extract 2
10,
and 4?
okay.
Would not it be like more logical, let's say, to take some share, for example, or extract some share of the intensity, for example? Because, for example, it can be that it will be 10 minus 2 or like 2 minus 2. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Daria, for your question. Actually, this was not something that I did, and we, as I understand, we had to make several assumptions right here, and say that okay, well, share it's a really interesting thing, and maybe I should write it and discuss it with my scientific supervisor. But the general logic behind this, behind using internal conflicts, is that because I had the same question when I was reading the article. My question was, okay, we have an internal conflict inside country B. Here we use this information, like here we have internal conflicts of inside country B, and it means that influence from country A to country B is higher. And my question was, well, maybe we should also extract one from here and say that if we have internal conflicts in country B, we also have here lower influence, because here we have 5, and maybe we should extract one from here. But after like several minutes of conversation, I understand that this is okay, because if you have like a conflict inside a country, it doesn't mean that you should deal with this conflict, and you should do something with this conflict. And if you have a war and conflict between between states here, well, you have like this conflict, but you do not take this conflict into account. But this is something that makes you a lower, like a less powerful state. And that's why this correction works right here, if we're talking about whether we should add here 1 or extract here 1, like right here. But this is like a great question about -2 of intensity level. But you see that we should do something with the scales. And here, for example, we have ordinal scale from 1 to 5, and if we, if we, for example, extract here maximum value, we will have also a conflict with such an intensity. But if, for example, you see that if we have a conflict with intensity 1000, which is not really like big number, if we consider like great conflicts like in Rwanda or something in Ukraine, here, if you have like a really huge intrastate conflicts, so if you have something in your territory, these conflicts will not be so intense for you because you have a really difficult situation in your country. That's why I guess that this really similar procedure of summing of extracting a particular number from a value is not really easy and really simple. I hope that, well, I had actually similar questions sometimes, but this is something that, well, it's not, again, it's not my topic. So I was not a person who invented the whole methodology, but this is something I am working on right now. And I try to give you my explanation and my understanding to the whole topic, but it will be better if you have the conversation with political scientists or like mathematicians. But I was trying to understand these things also, and that's why. Thank you for your questions, and I don't know. It was really productive for me because I right now have extra thoughts about the whole methodology, and I would like to check like the quota, check the whether we should change this quota or do something with our data. Maybe we should recheck the whole periods. So yeah, thank you for being so active today. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Anna,
Do you have
thank you
any
very much.
question, any
It
other
was
questions?
it was a
Because
pleasure to
now we
listen
have
to your presentation. We still have a hand of Ilya.
thank you.
Yeah, I have one final question. Sorry, it will be a really, really short question. So I have a question. Why you use number of victims not adjusted to population? Why you use like numbers as general? So for example, I think that I don't know, 5,000 people killed in India during Pakistani-Indian conflict. It's not the same that, I don't know, 5,000 people killed in European small country with a not so huge population. Maybe it's better to use some sort of percentage or something. Have you ever thought about this?
Yes,
Maybe,
yes,
okay.
it was like one of the first questions that I have. Back in the day, I was really like introduced to this topic, and you see that this is like more philosophical question, let's say, because, well, firstly, we do not have any other measure of intensity, because I was also like questioned myself whether we should use deaths to measure the intensity of the conflicts. And it turns out that this is like the only one thing that is matter if we're talking about conflict, because it doesn't matter whether like the war is really expansive or so, but we can say that, okay, this conflict was really intense and really severe if, for example, we have lots of deaths. And well, this is like the general logic of using deaths to measure the intensity. But you see that, if, for example, we have, I have a really huge argument for you, is that right now we have lots of deaths in Russia, and I recommend you to read this paper. Well, maybe I will let me put it in the chat right now, because I don't know how can I attach this paper later. So well, right now, like Ukraine conflict is a really big thing, and if you would like to like use like sources or read about conflicts, you will see like lots of attention to this conflict because it's like one of the biggest conflicts in Europe, and like lots of people are dead, and well, it's not really well. I don't know how to put it, but actually, Indian-Pakistan war is not really intense. And if we, for example, put the ratio of like dead people by population, for example, this value will be super low. And I don't know, maybe this is something that we cannot compare, because you see that here we're constructing a network, and we should be really sure that like dead people somewhere in the one part of the network is like the same value as in the other part of the network. And actually it also means that we have okay, we have a Europe, and we have for example, countries where war is not a really common thing, and we have, for example, several regions where we have like a constant conflict between countries. But to construct the network and use this model, we should be sure that all the value we have measuring the victims and the intensity with the same measurements. That's why this is really needed to be sure about the whole model. But your idea is really interesting, and you can do it using, for example, if you, for example, would like to analyze conflicts in a particular region, it's a like really great idea that you can realize actually. But this is, well, shortly speaking, in general, it's important for the measurement and the whole model. And I will attach you the paper. And this paper you may find really useful, and this will be a really good argument about the stable and really peaceful Europe.
Thanks.
Yeah. And well, actually, we will discuss all of these things, and we will calculate this new period by the beginning of like April or so. And this topic may, well, we are not really sure, but this topic will be presented during Yasin conference, and you are free to like go there and see whether whether like it will be changed or not. So I will attach you like this scientific paper. So conflicts. Let me like find this like a couple of minutes or so. Conflicts. Hmm. Well, here. Okay. Okay. Let me download this article and attach this. Actually, it's well, I'm not so really again a political scientist, but it was really interesting for me to read something about the conflicts, because you see, guys, for example, war in Afghanistan was not such intense for me, and it was quite shocking for me, because this is something that my parents told me, and for me as a kid and as a, for example, teenager, I was thinking that it was one of like the most severe wars like my like experience, not experience, but feelings about what is going on in the world. But you see that the war in Ukraine right now is like 10 times more intense and severe in comparison with what was going on in Afghanistan. And again, it's a really big topic for the whole conflict approach. So I attached this paper. I hope that it is okay, and you can open this. And let me show you what is inside this paper. So you see, let me share my screen. So you see that here you can find the general information about organized violence during this period. And you see that here you have special non-state conflicts. So here you may find a really great explanation of what was like about the major conflicts during this period, and the like meta view on the whole conflicts analysis approach. And you see that, well, Ethiopian intrastate conflicts and the Russia-Ukraine conflicts, these are the main conflicts. And you see that, well, let me show you, well, here, state-based conflicts, and you will find like several pages about this conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And you see that in total, more than 200,000 battle-related deaths, and you see that this number is really big. And you can compare this number with the war in Afghanistan, for example, or like those conflicts that you may find really serious. But yeah, I recommend you just to read this paper. It was really, it was not really difficult. It was really a big pleasure for me to read something about this. So yeah, I attached this file in the chat.
Anna,
So
thank you very much.
yeah, thank you for being here. It was a pleasure.
Okay, I also have some more questions, but I think now we will not exceed the time of the seminar. So I think I will write them as just my comments to you personally. But this is really a very nice example of the research. So I congratulate you with this work. Really nicely done. Even though there are some questions, but I mean, you can always ask questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it is really nicely done. So we are looking forward to listen to this presentation in Yasin conference, and we wish you good luck with this research and publishing it.
Thank you for your kind words. And yeah, I hope that this will be something really interesting, and we will present like several updates in the Yasin conference. So it will be also great if you come to my section and spend like 15 minutes or so, and we can discuss all of these things here if you will have any questions. So this is something that I'm gonna be doing like during my next several months. So it was really great comments today. I heard really great comments today, and I will be thinking about them, I guess, during next several weeks. So yeah, thank you for being so active today.
Yes, and I also would like to say to thank our external visitors of the seminar. So it's really nice, and we are always happy to see new faces at the seminar. So please consider other topics. We try to publish information about our events as soon as possible when we know about them. So please come to other seminars. We will be happy. And also Artyom is here. We already have an agreement that Artyom will also take part in our seminar in some weeks, I guess. So yeah, please stay tuned and let's meet again in short future, in near future. Yeah. Okay. So have a good